Cotswolds are one of my absolute favorite places to explore in England. Just picture rolling green hills, quaint little villages, and so much history. You'll truly feel like you stepped back in time straight into a fairy tale. And before moving to England, I had the Cotswolds on the top of my bucket list. But what I didn't know before going here is that it's actually a huge area with tons of villages within it. I just thought it was a place, like going to the Cotswolds. I had the same feeling when I went to Cappadocia, Turkey, and everyone would just kept talking about go to Cappadocia, so I thought it was just a place. But it's really a region or an area with several cities within it, so I had to research where to go within the Cappadocia area. It's kind of the same thing here in the Cotswolds, and the amazing but also overwhelming thing is that there are so many villages to choose from. You really can't go wrong with whichever choice you make. But after exploring the area on a few different trips, I wanted to talk about my personal favorites. One thing to know before diving in is that it's extremely difficult to explore the Cotswolds using public transportation, and anyone who watches my channel knows I'm usually all about budget travel tips, taking public transportation, never paying a lot of money for tours or even renting cars, but you really will either need to rent a car or pay for a tour to explore the majority of this area, except for one village, which I'll talk more about in a little bit. First up is Bibury. Nestled on the banks of the River Colne, Bibury is a gorgeous little village that has one of the most famous streets in all of the Cotswolds, Arlington Row. This is probably one of the most photographed streets in all of the Cotswolds, and I would guess you've seen this photo before on Instagram or a guidebook, like whenever you see the Cotswolds are mentioned, and there's a reason for that. Arlington Row is just stunning. It's famous for its crooked little cottages. You'll definitely feel like you've gone back in time a few centuries. Next, we have the market town of Stow-on-the-Wold, which is perched right on top of a hill. This one isn't as charming as some of the others, but it does have the most shops and restaurants, so it has a little bit of a bigger feel to it. I highly recommend going to St. Edward's Church and snapping a photo of the most photographed door in the Cotswolds. This is because it's rumored to be Tolkien's inspiration for the doors of Durn in Lord of the Rings. This is a great spot to have some traditional British food in a pub like the King's Arms or the Queen's Head, or pop into one of the various tea rooms if you'd prefer that instead. The only thing I didn't like as much about this town compared to some of the others on the list was that there was a huge parking lot in the center of the village. So it kind of took away from the charm of the buildings all around it, and I would have just much preferred if there was just, you know, grass in the middle of it and all the buildings facing the grass, but I guess you gotta have somewhere to park, right? Camden is one of the most picturesque villages in the Cotswolds, known for its honey-colored limestone buildings and timeless charm. A stroll along the high street feels like you're stepping back in time with its beautifully preserved architecture and quaint shops. One of the top things to do here is visit the historic market hall built in the 1600s, which is the perfect stop for a photo op. You can also explore the Court Barn Museum to learn about the arts and crafts movement that thrived in this area. And for nature lovers, Camden is the starting point of the Cotswold Way, a long-distance walking trail that winds through some of England's most scenic countryside. Perfect for a peaceful hike or a short countryside stroll. A few miles southwest of Camden is the village of Broadway. It's one of the best places in the Cotswolds to explore if you want to see one of the larger villages in the area. Broadway is often called the jewel of the Cotswolds, known for its wide, tree-lined high street and beautiful golden stone cottages. Spend some time browsing the boutique shops, art galleries, and cozy tea rooms that line the main road. A must-visit stop is the iconic Broadway Tower, just a short walk or drive from the village. Climb to the top for sweeping views over the Cotswold Hills and even see as far as Wales on a clear day. Bourton-on-the-Water is often nicknamed the Venice of the Cotswolds. It's famous for its charming low bridges that cross the gently flowing river Windrush right through the heart of the village. It's the perfect spot for a relaxing afternoon. Grab an ice cream, wander along the riverbanks, and watch the ducks glide by. Popular attractions include the Model Village, which is a perfect miniature replica of Burton itself, and the Cotswold Motoring Museum packed with vintage cars and nostalgic treasures. Burford is one of the Cotswolds' smaller medieval towns that's perched on the river Windrush, similar to Bourton-on-the-Water. This was personally my favorite city center, or downtown street, if you can even call it that, because it's so small, but it had so many shops and restaurants to explore, and each building was of course super medieval, which looked like you were transported back in time. I also love St. John the Baptist Church and graveyard. It was absolutely stunning and tucked away on the back alleyway off of the main road. The last two villages I'm going to talk about are the only ones that you can easily visit via public transportation without renting a car or doing a tour. I do say easy, but you will need to take a train to Chippenham for both of these, and then from Chippenham you can take a bus to either location. The first location is Castle Combe, which is probably the most iconic village in the Cotswolds, or the picture you probably see the most when you Google Cotswolds. To get here, you'll take the 95 bus from Chippenham Station towards Griddleton, and then you'll get off on Village Centre. But the bus does not run on Sundays. Don't make the same mistake I did. So I recommend going on another day, or you'll have to pay for a taxi from the station. Castle Combe is one of the best places to visit in the Cotswolds, which is split into two parts. First, you'll explore the narrow valley of Bibury, which is one of the most photographed spots in all of the Cotswolds. Then you'll head towards Upper Castle Combe, and that's quite a bit higher up. So here is where you'll check out the Market Cross and St. Andrew's Church. The other location you can visit via bus from Chippenham is Lacock, which has a ton of Harry Potter filming locations for all of you fellow Harry Potter fans out there. In the Lacock Abbey, which costs £22 to enter, you'll recognize the cloisters as the corridors of Hogwarts, plus several other filming locations in the first film, The Sorcerer's Stone. The chapter house in the Abbey is the room where Harry discovers the enchanted mirror. The warming room was Professor Quirrell's classroom, and the sacristy was Professor Snape's classroom. Now, if you wander down the end of the church street, you'll recognize it as James and Lily Potter's house in the flashbacks from the first film as well. And there are two more filming locations here from the sixth film, The Half-Blood Prince. The sign of the Angel Pub was in the background as Dumbledore and Harry walked through the street, but it had a sign in the film for Babberton Arms. And the Muggle house that Slughorn was hiding out in is on Churchill. You could literally spend weeks exploring the area of the Cotswolds alone. There are so many quaint villages to explore in the area, and you truly can't go wrong with whichever one you decide to visit. They are all magical. Now let's take a look at another magical place in England that also has green rolling hills, but these hills give you breathtaking views of the ocean as well.